Welcome to the Chinese Mom in Business Club, the Queen Bee interview. This episode is all about sex and women empowerment. Yes, you hear me right. It's all about sex and women empowerment. Not something we talk about every day, especially around dinner table in a Chinese household. I can say in any household, it's not something we talk about here. So firstly, a little introduction about myself. My name is Xiaofang Saten. I am the co-founder of the club. I'm going to hand over to my co-founder Sally to introduce our amazing guest today, Jingjin Liu.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Sally Maya Yip. I'm a founder and MD of 11K Consulting, which is a China PR agency based here in London. And I used to live in Singapore for 6 years. And today I'm so honored to have the honor to introduce our guest speaker today, Jingjin Liu, who is the founder and CEO of ZaZaZu. So I know that Jingjin is the first woman who actually created this first personalized sexual wellness hub in ASEAN that synergizes education, consultant, and digital service to empower women to own their sexuality with confidence. As an entrepreneur myself, I have to say this is super innovative, and I would love to hear more from Jingjin later. And also, what is really impressive about Jingjin is that she's also a LinkedIn top voice for 2022, is also an early stage investor among all the different titles and achievements. So without further ado, I would love to invite my co-host Xiaofeng to ask the first question. Thank you.
Firstly, Jingjin, welcome. Before I dive into the question, would you like to say something?
Greeting from Singapore to London, and thank you so much for both of you. My honor is mine to being here and talking about a topic with 3 women and with Chinese background, heritage, and talking about sex, especially early in London. I'm really honored. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously, I love your company. I mean, the first thing, obviously, is the name attracted me. And so really, my first question is, firstly, tell us a little bit more about the ZaZaZu. But why the name ZaZaZu? What motivate you to set up, as you said, taboo-breaking business, which is extremely controversial venture, especially in Asia. You started this in Singapore. It's slightly more advanced, maybe mainland China, but it's leading. Is Asia, and what specific products do you sell? It's a long question, but we're all ears.
So let me start with the name. So ZaZaZu is coming from, I think everyone in the Western world would know, and especially our generation, from the cult series Sex and the City. So there was the 4 ladies, I mean, for the one who don't know, 4 cool New Yorker living in New York with their fresh life, talk about life, sex, business, and intimacy. And in their early 40s, and there was this conversation where Carrie met a guy called Burger and is compared to her usual boyfriend, quite a loser, air quote. And because he was not successful, he did not sell his books, and he was obviously financially not savvy. And old ladies are like, okay, how can you date someone like that? How can someone like that afford your lifestyle? This is very Asian kind of conversation, but very realistic one in New York. And then Carrie was like, oh my God, but what about the ZaZaZu? And it was spelled a little bit differently, but what about the ZaZaZu? This is the first time I heard about the name. And this has become a term where the ladies are like, okay, what the hell is ZaZaZu? So ZaZaZu, the definition of ZaZaZu is actually this kind of butterfly feeling in your stomach when we were young, when we were curious, when we were falling in love with someone. And the first time you can't actually allocate the feeling. You don't know where that is. And it's a great feeling, and you just don't know where that is. And same is true for female orgasm, as there is no science in the world can allocate where is the G-spot, or we only recently found out the clitoris is the only pleasure organ in the human anatomy that does nothing but providing pleasure. So I thought, when I want to build when I started the company, I thought I want to build a company that the name stick with people, and Asian people can spell. So you need a lot of vowels, the A, the U, so ZaZaZu. So this is how the name came from.
Well, I mean, certainly done a good job. Certainly perfectly pronouncing for both culture, Western and Asian. I don't know how did I actually miss that bit, because now I can't say I'm a big fan of Sex and City anymore.
Yeah. So when I started the company, so initially I didn't start a company with the vision to have to build a sexual well-being hub. That was never the goal. The goal for me was actually, so I come from a very male-dominated industry. So I was in automotive. I lived in Germany for 15 years. Was the first female Chinese marketing director in a billion-dollar German firm, and I was always the only one. And I felt that when I grew up in China, I come originally from Beijing, and I was always the odd girl. So I was always skin is too dark, I was too opinionated, too extroverted. I never really fit into the society because I was not really good in academia. And so I was this kind of girl where a teacher would say, okay, cause a lot of trouble, don't be friends with her. And ask too many questions. So I was not able in my teenager age or early teenager age, I never knew how to become a woman, how to become a young woman and eventually become a woman. So I decided when I was 16 to move to Germany, where individualism is more celebrated and where I could potentially thrive. This was just a very initial thought. So long story short, then I pursued a very male-dominated industry because I didn't know how to become a woman. And along those ways, I actually figured out how to become a woman. And I recognized that especially during my corporate career, the problem with women, the connection between confidence and women is actually regardless from your heritage, whether you're a Western society here, whether you're pretty or not pretty, whether you're intelligent or not intelligent. I met the most beautiful, intelligent woman in my company, and she's still lacking of confidence. So this has become a passion calling for me. So how can I help the next generation, or even people in my generation, even my mom's generation, because they are awesome. Women carry so many roles, and I don't need to say that in the Chinese business mom club. And we have so many roles to play, and still we have more doubts than any man that I've ever encountered. So the vision was always for me, when I have the opportunity to build a company that help women to build innate confidence from within, not just help women ask for 20% more salary, ask for the board seat, if they don't give you a chair, you pull a chair. I don't believe in this Western narrative because in my corporate career time, I recognize women generally don't feel entitled to anything, to more salaries, to the better title, to anything that is not offered to her. And women don't dare to ask because we don't feel entitled. So you need to create something that help women to feel entitled, and I deserve that. So this was actually the initial thought, and eventually it becomes a femtech company, a sexual well-being company, is because I believe that sexuality informs identity, and if we are secure in our identity, and that builds confidence, and confidence is at the end, again, think back, is what empower women to be limitless and to go ahead and beyond. And this is how I started ZaZaZu. Yeah.
Fantastic. I definitely link it to you. I'm actually really the dark skin one. I'm from Henan province. So I'm always the one everyone come to look at me. Oh my gosh, why is that? So that's part of my reason flee to Western, but I think I'm just very, very related to your story. So when I talk about that kind of passion really motivate you, and what really in terms of ZaZaZu, what your company do and what products you sell?
Yeah. So in the startup ecosystem, you are only the pivot is constant. So we started with a sexual well-being platform, a trip advisor for female sexual well-being, where you have the education, consultation, product, you have everything in one hub. As you can imagine, when we talk about Trip, you have TripAdvisor. When you talk about search engine, you have Google. Talk about video conference, you have Zoom. But in terms of sex, there is no legitimate source beyond porn to educate people, even in the Western world. It just started recently. And in Asia, there are many, many rubbish out there. The company that make the best SEO make on the top, but it's never the most legitimate resources. At the same time, the sex educators, the sexologists, intimacy coaches, all these people are doing business in a very on the side hustle, because people even mix up sexologists with sex workers. The knowledge in this space, especially when it comes to female sexual well-being, is minimal. And therefore we say, okay, let's build, let's connect the educator with legitimate information and get the product that are tested and healthy and legit for women and are not threatening for women. Let's combine them all in one platform. This was how we actually started. And as a startup, it never worked out the way that you think. So don't assume that this is what needed. You mentioned, Xiaofang, at the beginning, saying Singapore is a very progressive country compared to mainland China and many other countries. I see already said it's not. It really, really is not.
Right.
So especially in terms of, taboo topics like sex. I think Singapore comparable as Hong Kong. I think for my rationale, any country, Asian country, which has a colonial influence, just have a very weird concept of, sex, and especially female sex. These two topics, it's about reproductive health.
Yes.
It's never about sex, and let alone pleasure. When you compare, for example, Taiwan as a region, they have the American influence, give them a very different, more open-minded setup of the business, of the landscape in terms of sex. So having said that, so we recognize the social media is not working for us, and there are a lot of restrictions, and there aren't enough reach. And then so we were pivoting different ways to try to find a club to integrate yoga, integrate skincare to give you a glow job, exercise that help you to exercise. We tried the aphrodisiac food to give you, more appetite. We really try to adapt into the culture norm, and then to make sex less intimidating. Still, it was, especially during COVID, people are extremely careful, and that didn't work out. So ultimately now we have find our own track. Now we have become a B2B company. We offer workshops, specifically workshops to corporate, to clubs, to a B2B solution. We have 6 pillars coming from Unbox Yourself, a very customized workshop, a different kind of female empowerment, as the name already say, Unbox Yourself, find your own ZaZaZu, really starting from let women recognize what is the body image, what is our relationship with our female body part. Least percentage of women have ever taken a mirror, especially in our culture, to look at our vulva. I think we are all moms. How many moms have, look at themselves and look, okay, I look great, because we don't think we look great. We didn't look great before pregnancy. We look even worse after pregnancy, because of the societal norm and how society has perceived beauty. So we actually started our workshop from there, how to build a relationship with yourself. And then once you have a healthy relationship with yourself, you really believe that you have a healthy relationship with yourself, then we can start with a conversation about the bedroom, how you behave. And in the corporate, we are our signature. This is one of our customized workshop, but in signature workshop, it's called the confidence in the bedroom leads to confidence in the boardroom. Because at the end of the day, it's ask for what you deserve. And if you can't ask the closest man in your life, which is a partner or your husband, how are you going to ask your boss or your peer or any man in the workspace what you actually want? So so basically we try to offer thought leadership for women. We think that this is more needed than product or any other solutions in the medical space to empower women to build confidence from within.
I can feel, it's very intimate, the topic you're talking about. It's just so intimate. We are really bare deep inside, and then we don't dig it out. And one of the things, I guess the main reason we don't dig it out is because we feel shamed. We feel how we're going to talk about, and also there's not really a safe platform, an environment for us to say, oh, we're sexy, oh, we can't be like this. I think that's really the seems like what your platform is trying to do. But one quick question, obviously this will stay quite a bit long in the first question, we need to move on, but very, very interested in, the B2B basically approach you take. And I think it's really good. I'm just thinking in my mind, I would, for our female team members, I would love to talk to them about this. Even sometime in workplace, you found a little bit awkward to talk about it. So any advice or suggestions how we're going to approach this? Like if we say, okay, we're going to offer a fun, like a girls' afternoon or a girls' workshop. Let's just basically have a bit fun and a little bit champagne or something, and then we can do a workshop. How I can open my mouth to basically let them know. Introduce.
So we call it trivia night. It's basically that something that, it's, of course, at the end of the day, I think you offer a safe environment. What we have done so far with corporate, what has been, I would rather say a side effect, positive side effect is that because of COVID, many corporate we work with, the team member has never met each other physically. So if you have never met each other, it's very difficult to create bonding. Then we have run this workshop, Unbox Yourself, in a company, Micro Capital, actually in Vietnam. You think Vietnam is very conservative? Oh no, they are. And then we have a bunch of girls, women, and we were very careful because of the cultural narrative. And after, so it was a 2 days workshop, really through Zoom. It was very challenging through Zoom, but we made it happen. And we still got feedback that when they were allowed to meet, the first thing that connect the girls, or remember the ZaZaZu workshop we did together. We draw our vulva together. We draw, we had a hand appreciation exercise. We shared with each other the challenge working from home with 2 kids because school were not open. We never share this kind of thing. We are running meetings back to back and the kids are running around, but it's like an unspoken topic and we don't know the challenges, the fatigues. We know, but we don't know because we never talk about it. And I think this formed a very unique kind of bond, especially between women. We become more understanding for each other, and you are definitely not alone. And this, especially during COVID time, was golden, I have to say. I think that, and that's just generally, I think this topic, the conversation starter, we always say, is the confidence in the bedroom leads to confidence in the boardroom. Do you see the link? And most people do, and they make them think, oh, okay, does it make sense? And this has been so far when I pitch to corporate was always the conversation opener. It's so odd that actually makes people want to think again.
I think right now is the right time, isn't it? It's the right time. Even when I ask you the question of how can I actually talk to this to our female team members, but my consciousness say why ask that question is because I have the subconscious feeling this is an awkward conversation. But it's that subconscious, it's awkward, but actually just, if you say it's not awkward, you just need to open up because maybe just like what you said, it seems people just kind of feel, oh my gosh, I want to talk about that. Or you actually started that. But it's it definitely is a link to that kind of confidence, self-confidence. I definitely like the line of the thought leadership and from bedroom to boardroom. That's fantastic.
Great to hear.
Great. Yes, for me, I think you are really a living example of breaking the bias, Jingjin, like really breaking the cultural, the psychologist bias, which is really inspiring to see. The next question, I would love to know if you have any 5 or 10 year vision plan for ZaZaZu as it's so innovative. What or where do you want to get to in 5 or 10 years' time?
I want to create really a safe space for women Ultimately, I think B2B is rather a lazy approach. It's due to the circumstance as it is. But I really want to reach the everyday woman. For me, is that I don't need to liberate the woman who is already looking for, I don't know, sexual well-being online, buying pleasure essential sex toys. Let me just say it out loud now, online, because they already know. I want to empower the everyday girl, the girl who sells bubble tea, the girl next door, the one that they don't have any access to sexual well-being, and because of the cultural norm, they think sex is pleasure is guilty and sex is dirty. And I really want to create a platform where women are together, and we say create a platform where sex is healthy, pleasure is encouraged, and the sexual education gap is sealed, especially in Asia. And I think for me is I exited my previous business, and for me, I am a very down-to-earth kind of entrepreneur. I think that in the nowadays, in the entrepreneur ecosystem, startup ecosystem, we talk a lot of hype, talking about the vision, the mission, the 10 years. If you ask someone really 5 years ago, what do you see yourself in 5 years? No one will say, I will see myself in lockdown. So I don't buy that anymore. So I rather look down, okay, what can I do next year? In maybe 3 years time. So I think if we can this year get more corporates, to understand, female body is different, that women needs are different, women in menopause or during period have, special needs, and to raise a topic about women's health, including sexual well-being as part of it, that would be a big progress, big step forward.
And as a mom of 3 girls, and one of the things I'm actually, my oldest one is 10, is approaching 11, 12. And nowadays, young girls, they starting their period can be quite early. At school, the moms group, some of the girls already quite emotional talking about, I actually kind of thinking, how should I talk about this? How can I talk to this about with our girls, and then can make them, this is not something they are actually ashamed of, something is an inconvenience, but how can we actually make this whole experience is actually a pleasant experience they don't think it's like shamed to open up to talk about. So I don't know whether this is something in your education down to your line with 3-year vision you would actually bring into.
So we do. We actually have in the meanwhile 30 different kind of workshops in 5 different pillars. That one is worked towards the corporate, but in the B2C segment or with some of the organizational associations, we run the workshop how to talk to your kids about sex or how to have an amicable divorce. So topics that are really elephants in the room. And especially specific about that, how to talk to your kids about sex. Here is a very different narrative, because we talk to kids about sex. Here is about abstinence. And we have the education here. One of my interns told me when she's 19, so when she went to school, it's 5 years ago, the teacher actually showed her a video, showed the co-class a video about how a woman was raped, and saying, if you're going to have sex now, that's going to happen to you. This was the most vicious thing I've ever heard and this is a public school in Singapore. I was deeply shocked, and this is somehow the standard where we have now. And we cannot, and I think parents, especially Asian parents, need to get rid of the thought that when we talk to kids about sex, it's not going to lead to the result that they are going to start early. This is the biggest misconception we have in Asia. We think, because we work with government, and government saying, it's not that we don't want to put your program in school. In the moment I put your program in the school, the parents are going crazy. Are you teaching my kids to have more sex? And this is a misconception. And we have done a survey with I think roughly 1,000 young people ranging from 16 to 21. The last person they want to talk about sex in their life is parents, and consistently, this is 100% consistent. And this is something that I think we need to think as adults. We need to reflect on that. They grow up in a digital era. where information, especially unlimited information is available. And if you don't give them a certain channel by limit them into not to having sex early or not to understand this topic, not to explore about this topic, you will fail miserably. And I would rather have my kids learn things in a controlled environment rather than uncontrolled. And I think especially the topic with girls, I have this conversation, a lot with the Western parents here, the expat society a lot, because they're saying, obviously we talk to our boys about sex. And just imagine the first time, the boy and the girl, let's assume a scenario, they get together and the boy, he didn't know what he was doing. She didn't know what she was doing. And when the act was over, for the boy, it's like, okay, well done. Now you become a man. And for the girl, it's same. Do I get STD? Do I get STI? Do I get pregnant? Painful. At the end of the day, I think that this is the biggest education gap between boys and girls. But because of that fact, we tell our girls, oh my God, you really can't have it because all these bad things will happen to you. And why do we allow boys to explore their body early and not our girls? Why should we give our girls, taking the power away from the girls, saying boys can, masturbate, but you can't because you need to maintain a virgin? This kind of narrative, this is, very common. If I have a daughter, I would think the same. But isn't that we talk so much about female empowerment? We can be anything. But then even in the most innate fundamentals to our lives, we give the virginity to a boy still in 2022. Where's the missing link? So we do this kind of workshop to help parents to establish this relationship with their kids, boys or girls, and the open-minded parents have been I think the workshops are very well perceived.
I can imagine we'll probably talk about this in hours, but we got time limits. So definitely, I think I'll reach out offline and then to learn more about your other products and things. And then I know you met Jingjin Liu, so the first female CEO at PepsiCo. That must be a very interesting, I assume a very amazing experience. So we would love to hear about that. What happened, how it happened, and then what did you guys talk about?
Yes, it was rather a short encounter. I had one opportunity. It was in 2019. The Women's Forum was hosted in Singapore, and I run one of the workshops. And then all the speakers were able to get together up front. And of course, everyone wants to get a little piece of Jingjin Liu, and we happen to be in the same corner because our corner, the talk I'm going to hold is just right after her. So I had this one, I think it's like 2 minutes where we stand together, and I was like, okay, I don't need to tell you that I'm a big fan because 1,000 women already tell you that. What is, how are these women gonna make it? The word I used, so embarrassing. I didn't even know what I was asking. It's that because I think I associate a lot with her because it's a woman and Indian background and from rural area, from Chennai. It's just, if she can make it, really every woman can make it. And she looked at me because with this very short period, and this is the only sentence I'll remember for the rest of my life. And she said, you do your job better than any man, you do your job better than any woman, and this is how you make it to the top. And this is something that's very aligned with what I have been doing before, because I never, especially living in Germany, I never felt that gender was a problem, because women in Asia, women always work. CEO of a company in Asia is not a big deal. In Germany, oh my God, you are a miserable mom and miserable everything if you are professionally successful. Therefore, I think women stand a lot in their own ways, and society are not supporting that. And for me, that sentence for me was gave me the confirmation. It's that you just have to do better than anybody else. Simple as it is.
Fantastic. We'll keep that in mind.
Great. I'm just conscious about the time. Should we just ask you one last question and then let you go? So you are also a mom. You have a little boy. Do you have any challenges as a mom entrepreneur? If so, can you share your stories with us.
Biggest challenge, this is something that I don't have a solution to, is that I don't tell people I'm very proud of my boy, but I don't tell people I'm a mom, because in the moment where I address I'm a mom, all the other titles, angel investor, entrepreneur in residence, CEO, all of them are gone, because then you are limited to be the mom. That's why I hate the word mompreneur. You are an entrepreneur who happens to be a mom. That's it. Therefore, I think in this narrative, it's very important how we frame ourselves as well. Therefore, if someone asks, I will say, but I will not put emphasis on that, which is a pity, because my boys, they make me a better person. I'm definitely a better person than before I was a mom. I think that's the biggest challenge I have in my mind. I would like to bring this conversation forward, how, being parents bring you is different kind of leadership, how a working mom, that narrative, and I firmly believe in that. If you want to get things done, you hire a woman, and if you want to get everything done, you hire a mom. I don't know any man that is as efficient, I'm not talking about time spending on work, but as efficient as a mom. This is, I think, this is something that I struggle the most.
It's very, very interesting, isn't it? I just can't help to think when you were talking about, it's the identity. It's actually the same kind of a challenge or a frame is as basically our sexual identity as from very young age. Like you don't talk to girls about sex is actually joy, is something you can choose to enjoy, and you can give you confidence and all the stuff. I think the same apply to mom, with, I think also it's obviously different culture have different kind of mindset about it, but often I think overall Asian culture, they don't associate mom with you can be looking very fabulous, sexy, you can be successful, you can, having it all doesn't mean it's easy, but never is equal to that. But it's that kind of possibility of, if you have it all, you always feel like you don't fit into the society. I think that's overall the whole environment make us feel worried to basically, it's like come out, isn't it? It's really a little bit like feeling to come out. But I think it's more and more people like, like you right now in the era doing in the women's sexual empowerment, and then late, the education you putting forward for boys and girls. Obviously you had a boy is reading that in a very patriarchal culture. I'm sure you will think about that. You want to, he is growing up to very respectful for women, and then in future wife, and what what environment. I think it's but this is a matter. I think it's just like we need to be the change, isn't it? So that's one of the things which is Sally and I with the Chinese Mom in Business Club is, I think, sometimes how difficult the topic is, and we got to do the right thing, even how lonely sometimes is. We got to step up and then say the right thing. But I think I wanted to conclude the overall the interview with what basically your encounter with Indra Nui, doing our job better than a human being or anyone. Let's not differentiate ourselves from a man or woman. We are just simple human being here to actually do a service. That's what I hear from what Jingjin's motivation and passion of she's so motivated to offer her service, not just for the people who is actually really liberated, but to the girls who are actually in every corner of the street, in the world, in Asia, and I'm sure in the West of the world. So I think that's what we're going to do, and then that's what we're going to remember on a daily basis, and do our job, do our service. So thank you very much, Jingjin. It's a very short interview, but I'm very inspired, and we really appreciate your time.
So much for having me again. Give me the platform to get the voice out as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I personally learned a lot from you, and definitely will reach out to your platform. Thank you.
Thank you.